The Tigers against the Lions against the Tigers. It's expected to be a busy weekend of baseball in the southeastern city of Daegu, with games 3 and 4 of the 42nd edition of the Korean series to take place between the Kia Tigers and Samsung Lions. Now, for the latest in K-Sports, sportscaster Jason Lee is joining us in the studio today. Jason, it's great to have you here on the program.
Hello, Jason. Thank you. Great to be here.
All right, so Jason, the Korean series is underway, and as far as I understand, you were at games 1 and 2, not just as a spectator, but you actually were calling the games in English.
That's right. Yeah, I was down in Gwangju for games 1 and 2, and certainly a great atmosphere there. It was absolutely electric, and I know this program likes to follow Korean celebrities, and there were some significant Korean celebrity sightings there. In particular, Koo Ja-wook of Super Junior was there to sing the national anthem for Game 1 of the Korean series. And also J-Hope was there of BTS, of course. He was there to throw out the ceremonial opening pitch in Game 2 of the Korean series as well. For the games themselves, Game 1 was won by Kia by a score of 5-1, and Kia won Game 2 8-3 as well. So Kia with a commanding 2-0 series lead. James Nail as well as Won Tae-in both pitched outstanding in Game 1. And another note I would say is Kim Do-young, the third baseman of the Kia Tigers, hit a home run in Game 2 for Kia. Of course, he had 38 home runs and 40 stolen bases in the regular season. So he was a really big storyline throughout the season. If he would make 40 and 40, he got shut down at 38. But he did hit one more home run in the postseason. So maybe if he hits another postseason home run, he'll have a 40-40 season one way or another.
I'm glad you mentioned J-Hope. I was actually surprised you're wearing purple because it reminded me of BTS.
There you go.
Now, actually, we've had some crazy weather over the last, month, I think, here in Korea. And it rained on Monday and Tuesday in Gwangju. And the series took a bit of a turn because of the weather. How so?
Yeah, it was very significant, actually. So first off, the start of the game was delayed because of the rain. So the official start was around 6:30. From about 5 o'clock, there was already a light rain. And the actual game on Monday night didn't start till about 7:30. So it was significantly delayed. Kyun had to sing out there in the rain a little bit, so he got wet while singing the national anthem. But I think even more significantly than the game being delayed because of the rain, I mean, they brought the tarp out like 3 times before they even started the opening ceremonies for the game itself. But significantly, in the game itself, as I mentioned, James Nail and Won Tae-in, the 2 starting pitchers of the game, they were outstanding for the first 5 innings, despite there being a light drizzle for the entire time. The rains got a little bit stronger, and then in the 6th inning, Kim Won-kwon hit a solo home run off of James Nail. So Samsung actually took a 1-0 lead in the top of the 6th inning. They walked 2 batters. They were a 1-0 count to the next batter, and then that's when the umpire stopped the game. So Samsung had a ton of momentum going, but just a 1-0 lead. It could have very easily been a 2-0 lead, a 3-0 lead, but because the game was stopped, it was pushed to the next day. But then Tuesday it rained as well. Yeah, so it was just a rain fest. And then Wednesday, they finally resumed that game before the start of Game 2. And when they resumed it, the momentum was all gone, a failed bunt attempt, and then before you knew it, Kia just took over momentum. They pounded on the Samsung bullpen and went on to, as I mentioned, the 5-1 victory in that game. And then they followed it up right after that because momentum was already there because they had a come from behind victory that day. Everyone's feeling good about it. Going into Game 2, they just trampled Samsung once again 8-3.
And it was actually the first time that we had this back-to-back in the Korean series, right?
That's right, the suspension of it leading into the next game.
Yes, yeah. I can imagine that it's also physically very exhausting for the players. I mean, having to play 2 games.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, basically a doubleheader, which typically you do see doubleheaders in Major League Baseball quite frequently. But when it comes to Korean baseball, it's very rare that they play a doubleheader. So this was kind of like a 1.5 header, I guess you could say. But at the same time, it's certainly not something that the players were used to. And Samsung manager Park Jin-man was actually quite upset that they ended up playing the first half of the first game. He felt that the game should have been canceled before it started at all. So he is clearly not very happy. Certainly being down 2-0 as well.
Well, then let's talk a little bit more about the Samsung Lions. They have their star player Koo Ja-wook, but he hasn't played in the Korean series yet. So can we expect him to play in the 3rd game or the 4th game?
It's a good question. So Koo Ja-wook, of course, like you mentioned, he is their star player. I would say the most significant player on that team. And he got injured in Game 2 of the previous series against LG. Now, Samsung went on to win the game that he got injured in, and they won another game in order to advance to the Korean series. So they have won without him, but I mean, the Kia Tigers are just a different team than the LG Twins are. So they clearly do need him. There was talk that he might have been able to play in games 1 and 2 as a pinch hitter, but he never actually did appear in either of those games. So is he healthier enough to play tonight and tomorrow? That remains to be seen. It's a knee injury that he suffered while sliding into second base, and those can be a little fickle. So if he does play, I would imagine that he will not start because of having to run in the outfield and perhaps even on the base path. So I think if he does play, in all likeliness, it would just be as a pinch hitter. And then if he gets a hit, then have somebody run for him after that.
I think I saw an interview where he kind of expressed his confidence that even with his knee injury, if he has to play, he's going to play regardless of the pain.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to see what happens. And Walter, you also had another
Yeah,
question.
I do. So, as you mentioned, Kia is leading the series 2-0. Now, I've heard that historically they are 11 for 11 in the championship series. How likely is it for them to make it a 12 out of 12? And do you think we'll see a 4-game sweep?
Both very good questions. Yeah, as you mentioned, 11 for 11 when it comes to the championship series. Let me just say, that is absolutely ridiculous. You do not see that in any sport at all. So the fact that they've been to the championship 11 times, and every single time they have come out the champions, and now they're leading 2-0. They only have to win 2 more games. So certainly the prospects are very good. When a team wins the first game of the Korean series, they usually go on to win the championship about 75% of the time. And now that they have a 2-0 lead, it's well over 80% in terms of the numbers. But having said that, you're talking about a team that has 3 very good starting pitchers in James Neal, Yang Yeon-jung, and they've got Eric Lauer that's going to be starting tonight. And on top of that, they probably have the deepest hitting lineup on top of that. So the only weakness I would say that Kia does have is their defense. Somehow they're in first place and they led the league in errors. So you never see that as well, which is pretty crazy. So I would say the only way that Kia does not win this series is if they shoot themselves in their own foot by causing a lot of errors. They had 3 errors in Game 1 and 2 errors in Game 2. So if they, make some defensive miscues and it becomes a mental issue because of that, I could see how it's possible. But at the same time, this team is on a roll. Eric Lauer is a very good pitcher, as is Denny Reyes, who's pitching for Samsung tonight. But I think it's going to be a much closer game tonight. And I think in those later innings, we'll see. Maybe if Koo Ja-wook makes an appearance of some sort and plays a hero role, then maybe that's possible as well. But Samsung definitely have a uphill climb.
It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now, Jason, we have a little bit more time to talk about other big stories in sports. Let's talk about Tottenham Hotspur's Son Heung-min, of course. He also had an injury recently, but came back and then had a very successful game. But again, he didn't appear for the most recent game. So what are the updates on him?
That's right. So, of course, Son Heung-min did not play in Korea's last 2 international games because of an injury. He did return as you mentioned, this past weekend against West Ham, scored a goal, was named man of the match. A great game. He played 70 minutes in that one. But then after that game, he was a little bit sore, did not practice on Wednesday, and he's going to be left out of the lineup when they take on AZ this weekend. So there's hope that he might be able to play on the weekend game in the EPL when they face Crystal Palace. So hopefully, if he's able to return for that game, then things will look up. And they're confident that he'll be able to, but we'll still have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. All right, thank you, Jason. That's all the time we have. Have a great weekend. Probably you're going to be busy watching and commentating on the games on the weekend.
Absolutely.
So hope to talk to you again about the world of sports.
Look forward to it.
Thank you, Jason.
And thank you, Walter. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.
See you next week.